How's it going, everyone? This is Adam from Slurv, Ship My Money on DraftKings, and I'll be breaking down today's pitching slate for you for Tuesday, June 7th. It's a pretty ugly slate. Not a lot to like as far as pitching goes. Great slate for hitters, but for pitchers, it's going to be pretty tough and important to figure out who the best plays are. Because you'll get a big edge if you are able to pick the right guys, because there's a lot to choose from, and they're all pretty bad. So starting with cash games, on DraftKings, I doubt I'll play because I just don't want to pick two pitchers today, for cash. But, if you are going to play DraftKings, the three that I'm interested in are Michael Pineda, at I believe 6,000. He's a minus 160 favorite against the Angels. He's coming off a good start against the Tigers in his last start, and he's been really bad this year, but a lot of his peripherals point to him being better, and he's facing an Angels team that, for the most part, doesn't have a ton of power. They don't strike out a ton, but they don't have the best hitters, and he's just priced so low that I think, you can use him as your second starting pitcher in cash. On top of that, I think he'll be popular today since, he is so cheap and he's coming off of a good start. And so on a day where there's a lot of risk in like all of the pitchers, I don't mind taking a pitcher that I think like everyone else is going to play. So at least if he does bad, it doesn't hurt me. Whereas if I go a different route with someone that is just as risky and I'm wrong, I lose. So I definitely like Pineda as your second starting pitcher on DraftKings. For your first starting pitcher, for me, it's between Kyle Hendricks at like 10,800 and Greinke at 11,900. They're both way, way overpriced for their skill set, but on this slate, I think you kind of just have to pay up for one of them because they are the two safest options on the board in my mind. Hendricks is a minus 220 favorite against the Phillies. Greinke's minus 170 at home against Tampa. He struggled at home this year, and Tampa has some powerful hitters, but they do struggle with right-handed pitching, and they do strike out a lot. I think if he relies on his slider against the righties today, he'll have some success against this Tampa lineup. If he leans heavier on the fastball, then he could be in some trouble, but I don't see any reason that he would. So, I want to go either Hendricks or Greinke as my number one pitcher in cash on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Hendricks is my favorite cash pitcher at 8,500. DeGrom is on the slate on FanDuel as well, and you can definitely make an argument for him. I just don't really like targeting guys against the Pirates that much, and I think DeGrom's had enough red flags this season that I just prefer Hendricks at 8,500. Against the Phillies is a huge favorite. He, doesn't have massive upside because he generally isn't allowed to go deep into games, but, it's just a good matchup, and on FanDuel where the win's really important, he's got a really good shot to get one. So moving over to GPPs on DraftKings, I am interested in I think Pineda's in play just because he's so cheap and just has a decent floor and a decent ceiling at that price. Dallas Keuchel is interesting to me. The line's moved in his favor a little bit. He opened as a small underdog. Now he's a small favorite, and the total also dropped. So, and he's priced at 5,800 on DraftKings. Even though he struggled this year, it looks like he should probably do better than he has been. He shouldn't be as good as he was last year, but at 5,800, you don't have to be anywhere as close to as good as he was last year. He's also, even when he struggles, he's been going pretty deep into games. He's allowed to throw a lot of pitches. And at 5,800, just getting those 6 to 7 innings gives you a nice floor as long as he doesn't, give up a ton of runs. It's not an ideal matchup with Texas, but he's just so cheap and probably won't be popular because people have been trying to, play him when he's cheap all season, and he sucked most of the time. So I don't mind Keuchel. Aaron Sanchez at 10,500 is on the other end of the pricing spectrum. He's priced way up, but I really like him today against Detroit. Detroit's a righty-heavy lineup, and Aaron Sanchez has a ridiculous ground ball rate against right-handed batters. And on top of that, the Tigers, they've been really hot, and they are really good hitters, but they have struck out a little bit against right-handed pitching. I don't really think he has a lot of strikeout upside in this matchup, but I do think that he matches up better with the Tigers than other, right-handed hard throwers because he throws a lot more two-seam fastballs, sinkers, than four-seamers. And the Tigers absolutely crush, hard four-seam fastballs, but they aren't quite as good against two-seamers. So I think, combining his propensity for ground balls with the Tigers not being as good at hitting two-seam fastballs as they are at four-seam fastballs makes me think that he could have a pretty nice start today, even though he probably won't get a ton of strikeouts. I'm also interested in Urias against the Rockies. I assume people will be off him because he hasn't been good since he got called up, but he is a top prospect, and he's facing the Rockies away from Coors Field. They also struggle with lefties, and he's gone from a minus 145 favorite to a minus 190 favorite today, so Vegas is liking him early too. He's priced at, I think, 5,900 on DraftKings, and it's just a spot where there's decent upside for him just because he's priced so low. So I'm interested in him as well. For GPPs on FanDuel, I like DeGrom at 9,800. He's in my opinion, he's the best pitcher on the slate for fantasy purposes. He doesn't draw a good matchup, so hopefully that keeps his ownership down. I'd be less inclined to go to him if he's going to be more popular than like Greinke and Hendricks, but we'll find that out during the day. Sanchez is in play for me on FanDuel as well at 9,000. I definitely expect him to be low owned on FanDuel because he is priced between DeGrom and Hendricks. You only have to pay an extra 800 to get up to DeGrom, and you save 500 by going with Hendricks. So I expect him to be pretty low owned, and I like that spot for him. Tyson Ross at 8,400. I think has a nice matchup with the White Sox today. He's someone that I expect to regress throughout the course of the season, but the White Sox, have a lot of right-handed bats, and that slider plays really well against the right-handed bats. So assuming they, have a right-handed heavy lineup today, I like Tyson Ross. Pineda at 7,500 is in play for me on FanDuel as well. For the same reasons as DraftKings, he's just priced lower than his talent level, and if we expect him to regress to the mean, his peripherals are pretty good, and he's very talented. So I think 7,500 is too low of a price for him. And then on FanDuel, I don't mind Aaron Blair at 4,700. That price is just ridiculous. He's not a good pitcher, but he's facing the Padres, and it would let you get all the bats that you want. It's not that I like Aaron Blair as much as I just think 4,700 is a really crazy price that would let you get all the hitters you want on a slate where there are a ton of hitters. So it's going to be important, to get the right hitters. He's a minus 150 favorite. I'm sorry, he's a plus 135 underdog. But at that price, it's just, it doesn't really matter that he's an underdog. It's just so cheap that if he goes out, gives you a good 5 to 6 innings, gets a few strikeouts, and maybe gets a win, then you're fine. So that's what I'm thinking for pitching right now. Today's definitely a day where my thoughts could change throughout the day as I really dig into these guys more. So be sure to stop on the Slurve website and talk to me in the expert chat throughout the day to see where I'm headed. Good luck tonight, guys.